So the delegations that came to the Prophet ﷺ during the 9th year and maybe a little bit of the early 10th year of Hijrah were around 60, just above 60 delegations. And that pretty much covers the majority of the Arab tribes in the Arabian Peninsula. The second great event that happened was the Battle of Tabuk, where the Muslims heard some news reached the Muslims that the Byzantines were actually preparing themselves to wage some kind of an attack on the Arabian Peninsula, because now the majority of the Arabian Peninsula has become Muslim. They swore allegiance to the Prophet ﷺ. So the Christian Arabs in the Sham and the Byzantines, they thought this was a threat and we might want to deal with it. So the news reached the Prophet ﷺ, and he decided actually to get the Muslim army and march towards the north of the Arabian Peninsula, south of Sham, and see if there is anything of that sort. Let's deal with it. So these are the major events that happened in the year 9 after Hijrah. So pretty much it was the Arabs of the Arabian Peninsula flooding to Medina to swear allegiance and accept Islam and learn the system of Islam, and so on and so forth. So we're gonna look at some of the delegations that came, if they had a special story. Most of the delegations had a similar story. They would come to the Prophet ﷺ, and they would give him the bay'ah. He would teach them some of the basics of Islam and teach them about what is the governance system of Islam briefly, which was very simple and straightforward, and it would be that. So they would go back to their people. So that was pretty much everything that happened. But some of the delegations were actually somehow had a special story, so we're going to comment on them. The Prophet ﷺ also started sending some of his companions to go to the new Muslim tribes to overlook how the zakah was taken from the rich among them and how it was given back to the poorer ones among them, and whatever extra they had, it would be brought to Baytul Mal al-Muslimin, or sort of like to the treasury of the Muslims. It would be brought so the Prophet ﷺ could send it in any part of the Arabian Peninsula where there were people in need. So the Prophet ﷺ sent a few of his companions to overlook this process. So one of the famous incidents that happened was the Prophet ﷺ sent one of the companions called Ibn al-Lutayba. Ibn al-Lutbiyya. So Ibn al-Lutbiyya, he was from Banu Asad. The Prophet ﷺ sent him to one of the Arab tribes to overlook to watch over the sadaqah of the zakah, how it was distributed, make sure everything was right. And then whatever extra they had, they would bring it over with him to the Prophet ﷺ. So when he came to the Prophet ﷺ, he handed whatever was given from the sadaqah, but there was a little bit of like some gifts he had. So seems to be some gold. So he said, "This is for you, and this was given to me." The Prophet ﷺ stands on the minbar, and he basically gives a small speech, and he says, like, what's wrong with some people? We send them on a mission, on some kind of job, and then they say, this is for you, for the Muslim government, and this is for me. Why didn't you just sit at home and wait if people are going to give you gifts? Because this was a very suspicious thing to do. Why? Because you're going to collect the sadaqah, so there's an expectation of how much you're going to give to the Prophet ﷺ. There was some sort of a calculation. And not that the Prophet ﷺ is claiming that these Muslims were not honest, or that Ibn al-Lutbiyya himself was not honest. But he was basically, the Prophet ﷺ says, this is a very critical situation where people could actually potentially misuse it. So the Prophet ﷺ wanted to cancel and avoid the whole situation altogether. So for him, anyone who was entrusted to collect those funds and bring them, no gifts, no personal gifts were allowed. Because it could be a bribe. And still, the whole thing is dubious. So the Prophet ﷺ did not allow. So he was setting the standard now that anyone that we send specifically with financial issues or with some kind of a leadership position, then personal gifts are not allowed, because that would blemish their performance and their neutrality in performing that kind of task or responsibility. And that's actually profound, because what starts one day as a gift could develop into expectation. Like if you go to get some papers done, and so you see that the person who works for that department, was really nice, so you thought, I want to reward them, so you give them a gift. Then the second time you give them a gift, then they start expecting that gift. Then if you don't give them a gift a third time or a fourth time, they might feel there's something wrong. Like, why? Because you set the standard. So then that's actually one step to abuse that kind of system, where people start to treat those who give them gifts favorably. And if you don't give them a gift, they won't give you the full service. Then it obviously transitions into bribery. So the Prophet ﷺ wanted to deal with that right from the beginning, so none of this happens again. And that was a beautiful insight from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet ﷺ sends, we know one of the mushrikeen previously in Mecca who was killed in the Battle of Badr, Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt. He was one of the staunchest enemies to the Prophet ﷺ. He was extremely very aggressive in his approach to the Prophet ﷺ in Mecca previously. Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt. His son became Muslim, Al-Walid ibn Uqba. The Prophet ﷺ sends Al-Walid ibn Uqba to Bani al-Mustaliq, the tribe of Bani al-Mustaliq, in order to, again, watch over the zakah process and bring whatever surplus they had. For some reason, Al-Walid felt there was something wrong. Like, he didn't reach the lands of Bani al-Mustaliq, but for some reason he got scared. Now the narration doesn't mention exactly what freaked him out, but so he doesn't reach Bani al-Mustaliq. He goes back to the Prophet ﷺ, and he says, I reached Bani al-Mustaliq and I found that they were actually ready to fight against me. They wanted to kill me. Now, why did he make up this story? Still, like, the details are not there, but I would assume that it happens sometimes. Like, sometimes as a parent, you send your kid to go and do something, and they don't really want to do it. They don't want to. They'll make up an excuse. They'll make up a story, not to do it. Okay, maybe that's the case. I'm not sure exactly, but so he comes to the Prophet ﷺ and says, I came to them. They wanted to kill me. They refused to pay this account. They wanted to kill me. So the Prophet ﷺ, sends a group of Muslims in order to go and find out what the situation is, and maybe even engage in a battle with Bani al-Mustaliq, if this is the case. Because they are rebelling now. They are acting rebelliously, defiantly. So when that group of Muslims go to Bani al-Mustaliq, Al-Harith, who's the leader of Bani al-Mustaliq, he meets them, and he's saying, like, you're an army, like, where are you heading to? He said, the Prophet sent us to you to discipline you, to deal with you. He said, why? He said, because he sent Al-Walid ibn Uqba to come and collect and watch over the zakah and collect the surplus, but you wanted to kill him. He said, I never saw him. He never came here. None of that happened. So then he goes to the Prophet. He actually travels to Medina and he meets the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ, he sees him, he says, "Mana'ta az-zakata wa aradta qatla rasuli." He said, you withheld zakah and you wanted to kill my messenger. So he says to the Prophet ﷺ, "La walladhi ba'athaka bil haqq ma ra'aytuhu wa la atani." He says, by the one who sent you with the truth, by Allah, I never saw him. He never came to me. And وما أقبلت إلا حين احتبس علي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم خشيت أن تكون كانت سخطة من الله عز وجل. So he says, and I only came here when I feared there was something wrong. Like, why didn't the messenger of the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم come here to collect the zakah? Why? Something must have went wrong. So I came to find out exactly what had happened, or what happened. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He reveals the verse in Surah Al-Hujurat, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين. O you who believe, be careful, lest a person who acts inappropriately brings you some news and it's not true. So if you act upon that news, you would wrong some people. You would wrong some people. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, verify the news that reaches you, lest you act upon that false information, and then you wrong a people, and then you become remorseful, and you regret what you did. That's a profound advice. It works on the level of governance as a group and as a government, and it works in family life, in your personal life. A lot of what's been said is not true. A lot of what's been said is just not true, or is just inaccurate. So it's important to verify. And oftentimes people make up stuff, like people lie. And sometimes people misconstrue, they misunderstand the situation, they interpret it like in a way that doesn't reflect reality. And people have many reasons for that. People have their prejudices. People have their own bias. So sometimes you might hear half a conversation between two people, and someone's name comes up, and you just sort of think, because there's a history to this, you think, oh, they're speaking about this person behind their back negatively. Maybe not. Maybe they're just considering to help that person. But because we humans, we want to complete the picture when it's incomplete. That's how we humans do. It's a very unconscious process, by the way. It's a very unconscious process. So it's extremely important when news comes to you which requires action, is you verify it. Actually, another qira'ah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, فَتَبَيَّنُوا. So clarify the reality. Another qira'ah, فَتَثَبَّتُوا, which is verify it, make sure what it is. And here I recall an experiment that took place in one of the universities in the US. And this was mentioned in one of the books on management. A professor teaching students in an auditorium, a huge auditorium, that could take about 200 to 300 students. So he was teaching, and in the middle of the lecture, a guy wearing a leather jacket, jeans, and has got chains hanging all around his waist, like a clear biker kind of person. And he walks into the auditorium and reaches to the professor and puts his hand into what seems to be an inside pocket, and he pulls something and he shoots. So he sort of points at the professor, and then the professor falls on the stage. Students start screaming and rushing, reaching to the doors, trying to get out of the auditorium. They're in complete panic. Then the teaching assistant on the mic, he says, please calm down, this is not a real situation, the professor is okay, this was just something, it's all staged, it's all an act, and we just want to see, it's an experiment. So the professor stands up. When it takes a few minutes for students to calm down, they go back to their seats, and the professor, they get a written report from every student about what they saw. Tell us what you saw, write what you saw. So they wrote down, lecture was taking place, professor was speaking and lecturing, and then this type of person enters the auditorium, walks straight to the professor, pulls a gun, and shoots the professor. And a lot of the accounts actually mention that the gun was black. It's only a small minority, and as far as I remember, it's maybe 2 to 3% of the students narrated the story slightly differently. That the person pulled something that was yellow in color. Yellow in color. So what was the true thing? As we said, the whole thing was acting. It wasn't a real situation. But the professor was trying to see how, and demonstrate to his students, how the human mind can actually interpret change and delete some of what our senses capture, like some of what we see. So the real thing, what actually happened was this person was an actor. He walked into the stage, and what he pulled from his inside pocket was a banana. Literally a banana. And pretty much most of the students saw the banana. But because the banana does not fit the progress of all of the whole situation and how the professor fell as if he fell dead. So their minds unconsciously cancelled the color of the banana and the side of the banana and replaced it with what? With a gun, a black gun. So humans are not passive, like we don't passively capture images. We actually like cognitive scientists who study perception, they say actually perception is hard work. We are an active agent in how we perceive the world. So, because there's so much to see. So we actually choose actively what to look at and what to ignore. And it's a very conscious process. It's a very unconscious process. It happens without us being aware. It's outside of our awareness. And not only that, our minds at some level, edits that information in order to maintain internal consistency. So it's not like a story that doesn't add up. So it does change stuff. So that's how we humans are. So pretty much I think that's what happened with Al-Walid ibn Uqba. Somehow, I don't know how he came up with this, or with this story, or he found it justified to say what he said. But that's what, so the Prophet ﷺ, was instructed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that whatever news arrives or you receive news, verify it. Make sure, because humans are prone to making mistakes in their perception, in their understanding, in their interpretation. And a simple experiment, classical experiment, is that if we just do it even here, which we're not going to do because it's going to take time, but it's done like millions of times. If I just give a sentence to, for example, Yusuf, starting with Yusuf, and I say, you whisper it to Bilal, and Bilal whispers it to Abu Rayyan, and so on and so forth, until it goes through from one person to the other, until it reaches, the last person, Khalil here. And I ask Khalil what the sentence was. It's going to be most likely has nothing to do with the sentence that I actually gave to Yusuf. That's a very, this has been done so many times. It's a classical experience. So, again, whenever news comes to you, verify it. Verify it. Yeah, so there was this story. The Prophet ﷺ sends one of his companions, Uyayna ibn Hisn al-Fazari, who's from Ghatafan. He sends him to Banu Tamim. Not Banu Tamim, all of them. Banu Tamim is a big tribe, but a small, or one of the clans of Banu Tamim, a sub-tribe if you like. The name was Banu al-Anbar. And these are strong, very strong people. The Prophet ﷺ sent Uyayna to them to, again, watch over the whole zakah issue and get the surplus. So there was a lot of surplus, and he was supposed to take it to the Prophet ﷺ. Some of their fellow, like members of their clan, or members of the tribe, of the bigger tribe of Banu Tamim, when they saw this, they said, no, why is all of this taken away from our tribe? It should remain within our tribe. So they did not allow it to be taken, and some of those were actually non-Muslim. Still, some of those were non-Muslim. So Uyayna goes back to the Prophet ﷺ, or he tells the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ sends Uyayna with 50 Muslims to fight. None of them is from the Muhajirin, none of them from the Ansar. So all of those are new Muslims. And he actually goes there, and he goes and fights those who took the sadaqah or the zakah, that they kept it there. He fought against them, and he managed to get it and bring it to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, and he actually captured some of their family members, and he brought them, some children and women. So he brought them as well to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to see what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is going to do with them, as a punishment to them. So the Prophet kept them in a house, and they took good care of them. But then these people and some other members from their tribe, some of their leaders, they came to the Prophet ﷺ, about 80 to 90 men. They came to the Messenger ﷺ and they wanted to meet him and speak with him. Some of them were Muslim. Some of them were Muslim already, like Al-Aqra' bin Habis. So they come to Medina. They come at the time of Salatul Dhuhr. The Prophet ﷺ still is in his house. He hasn't come out to pray the Salah. So they asked the companions, where is Muhammad? They said, he's in his house. He will come soon. It's time for Salatul Dhuhr. The Prophet ﷺ takes a little bit more time. So these people are impatient. They say, we can't wait anymore. So they go to the house of the Prophet ﷺ and they start calling the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Muhammad, Ya Muhammad, to the top of their lungs, like, Ya Muhammad, screaming, Ya Muhammad, Ya Muhammad. I mean, companions would not do that. Very disrespectful. Very disrespectful. So then the Prophet ﷺ, as soon as he comes out, he's really like, Prophet ﷺ doesn't like that, their approach. But as soon as the Prophet ﷺ comes out, they actually hold on to the Prophet ﷺ. They say, it's our people. How come you do this to our people? Your companions took our children, and they attacked us, and so on and so forth. And anyway, they had some kind of a conversation with the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ prays Dhuhr, and he has a conversation with them, but he promises them to give them back their family. But they ask the Prophet ﷺ, and that's one of the norms of the Arabs. They say, they sit in the masjid, in the middle of the masjid, and that shows that the masjid was not only for the prayer at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. It was a place actually to run this Muslim, land from. So they sat in the middle of the masjid, and according to the traditions of the Arabs, they said, we have one spokesperson, he wants to make a speech. It's some sort of a formality. So the Prophet ﷺ said, go ahead. So a man, his name is Adi bin Hatim, he stands up and he starts praising his people and talking about their chivalry and their power and their battles and their generosity and their reputation. Then he sits down. So the Prophet ﷺ speaks to Thabit bin Qais bin Shammas from Al-Ansar. And he says, why don't you speak for us? Respond to them. Again, that's a tradition. It's formality. And it shows as well, like formalities, traditions, in any culture, as long as they do not go against Islam, it's good to observe them. It's good to observe them. When Islam comes into a country, it does not seek to wipe out their culture. It does not seek to do that. That's a mistake. That's a mistake. If their culture is not against Islam and is in line with Islam, can be accommodated, Islam actually approves of it. It approves of it. So, and actually to a great extent this happened in a lot of the Muslim lands that accepted Islam. You'll find a lot of their cultural uniqueness is still there. Islam doesn't seek to bring Arab culture into for example, African countries, onto Asian countries, or into American countries. It doesn't seek to do that. It doesn't seek to do it. I mean, if you look into the Arab world, you're going to find there are some similarities, but there is a lot of differences, cultural differences. So if you, for example, look at Morocco, Algeria, you're going to find different, cultural structure than what you find, for example, in the Arabian Peninsula. There are similarities, but there's a lot of differences, and these are respected. So Islam does not seek to wipe out, and sometimes some Muslims have a stance against local culture and local norms. Even when they are in line with Islam, they have nothing against Islam. There's no violation of Islam. And the reason these Muslims have this issue is not their devotion to Islam. It's their, again, let's be straight, it's their narrow-mindedness. They can only live with own culture, home culture, and I think that's what Islam is. No, we have to learn Islam. We have to differentiate between what's Islam and what's cultural. Islam does not seek to kill the variety, just in the world, just like globalization. Globalization now is about hegemony. It's about taking over the world and changing people's norms in order to standardize them according to one model. That's unfair, and that's not even good for humanity, because cultures are rich, and there's no culture that is perfect. Cultures have good stuff and bad stuff, and when cultures get together, this actually strengthens Any kind of state that has this kind of variety, if it's handled well, if it's managed well. So the Prophet ﷺ observed that. Thabit ibn Shammas stands up and he speaks, and he makes a beautiful statement, but it has a lot of Islamic meanings in it. And he praises like how the companions took, like how we believe, what we believe in, and how we submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he talked how we support the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then he sits down. So those from Banu Tamim, they also have a poet. So they seek permission for the poet to speak. So the poet stands up and he starts praising his own people. So he says something like نحن الكرام فلا حي يعادلنا منا الملوك وفينا تنصب البيع ونحن يطعم عند القحط مطعمنا من الشواء إذا لم يؤنس القزع, and so on and so forth. So he says we are the generous people and no one feeds as much as we feed. No one has a level of hospitality as we display, and when people don't find food to eat, we offer them the best of food. We offer them, he says, basically barbecue. We offer them barbecue. So then he sits down. Hassan, the Prophet ﷺ, looks for Hassan bin Thabit. Hassan bin Thabit is not there. The Prophet ﷺ says, bring him here. So someone goes and fetches Hassan bin Thabit. He comes, and the Prophet ﷺ says, respond to them. And usually they would respond to them in the same rhythm, basically al-bahr, which is, I don't know what's that in English, but it's like because in the Arabic language, poetry has 17 systems of rhythm. Okay, in English, as far as I know, there's 2, but in the Arabic language there is actually 17, because the Arabic poetry is very elaborate even linguistically. So a line of poetry could really extend, it could be really long, it could be a complete sentence, sometimes even more than one sentence. So they would respond in the same, according to the same measure, or according to the same rhythm, and according to the same rhyme. So they would try to mimic the style, but linguistically and semantically they would try to show their superiority. So Hassan bin Thabit responds to them, again using the same kind of rhythm and rhyme. So when he was done, Al-Aqra' bin Habis, one of the leaders of Banu Tamim, he says, إن هذا الرجل لمؤتن له لخطيبه أخطب من خطيبنا ولشاعره أشعر من شاعرنا ولأصواتهم أعلى من أصواتنا. So he says basically this man is supported, talking about the Prophet ﷺ. He says their spokesperson is more eloquent than our spokesperson. Their poet is more skillful than our poet, and their voices are even louder. So after this kind of conversation and formality, they embraced Islam, and that's part of it. That's part of, people don't like to be ostracized. People like to feel appreciated, and that their culture and their background is respected. No one likes, because we take our culture personally. So as we said, as long as our culture or any culture is within the boundaries of Islam and doesn't conflict with the teachings and the guidelines of Islam, we should not go against it in a locality. And because this wins the hearts of the people over. And it's not an easy transition for people to leave disbelief and become Muslims. So why are we trying to make it even harder for them by giving them the impression you have to even leave your culture? That's not good. It's not good. And we see here how the Prophet ﷺ observed these traditions of the Arabs. And we can see now here how the impact, this actually made it easy for them to make this transition into Islam. And the Prophet ﷺ praises this tribe in general, Banu Tamim, and this clan, Banu Ambar. The Prophet ﷺ says, "Hum ashaddu ummati ala ad-Dajjal." These people, when the Dajjal appears, these will be the harshest against the Dajjal, the ones who will really fight against the Dajjal. And that shows again that the Arab tribes will be able to maintain their genealogy in the sense of their ancestry and figuring out who their forefathers are. That's going to extend until the time of a Dajjal. Anyway, yeah. One of the tribes that came, they were from Banu Asad ibn Khuzaymah, one of the Arab tribes. They came, and these people had a lot of arrogance in them, although they became as Muslim. But they came to the Prophet ﷺ, and they basically said to him, so one of them spoke. His name is Hadrami. He said, Ya Rasulullah, inna shahidna أن الله وحده لا شريك له وأنك عبده ورسوله وجئناك يا رسول الله ولم تبعث إلينا بعثا. So basically they were waiting for they were expecting the Prophet ﷺ to send to them someone to teach them maybe, and as again watch over the zakah issue and maybe give them advice. But the Prophet ﷺ didn't send anyone to them. He didn't send to every tribe. So they came and they were somehow complaining that we believed in Allah and we believe you are the messenger of Allah and we came to you, but you did not send to us someone to represent you, and we did not fight you like all these Arabs who came now as Muslims, and you sent them, a representative. They fought you, but we didn't fight against you. So you should basically like give us a favor, like some kind of a favorable, treatment. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He reveals about them the end of Surah Al-Hujurat, يَمُنُّونَ عَلَيْكَ أَنْ أَسْلَمُوا. They they make it as a favor that they have upon you, that they actually became Muslim. So they're like saying, we became Muslim, like you should appreciate this. Basically that was their attitude. And anyway, these people actually, among them was Tulayha bin Khuwaylid al-Asdi, and he's someone who became Muslim, but later on, after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, this Talha, he claimed prophethood to himself. He actually left Islam and he claimed prophethood to himself, and those people, Banu Asad bin Khuzaymah, they followed him. They were one of those who left Islam after the death of the Prophet ﷺ. But then Khalid bin Walid, under the leadership obviously of Abu Bakr anhu, Khalid bin Walid fought them, and they actually came back to Islam, including Talha bin Khuwaylid al-Asdi, who actually claimed to be prophet. He actually came back to Islam and he became a good Muslim. So again, that means, give people chance. This Talha bin Khuwaylid al-Asdi, or al-Asadi, he became a Muslim. And after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, he left Islam and he claimed to be a prophet. Like what could be worse than that? You claim to be a prophet and you know what Islam is. So he left Islam, literally he left Islam, he became a non-Muslim. And yet, later on he became Muslim and he helped the Muslims a lot later on. And that means, humans have their weaknesses. Humans are going to do some bad things, but it doesn't mean you write someone off, even if they do a huge crime. It's not for us to judge people. So the Prophet ﷺ sent again a few of the companions radiallahu anhum to fight against some of the remaining Arab tribes who were still trying to pose a threat to the Muslims, trying to create some kind of chaos in the Arabian Peninsula and maybe challenge the Muslims. The Prophet ﷺ sent some of the companions to actually teach them a lesson. And there was something, by the way, there is a specific ruling about the Arabian Peninsula. And Islamically, the Arabian Peninsula holds a very special place. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the Prophet ﷺ instructions not to leave anyone who wants to live the Arabian Peninsula. They couldn't be a non-Muslim. So the Arabian Peninsula has to become Muslim completely. That was the instructions from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there were a specific set of rulings for jihad when they came to the Arabian Peninsula that do not apply elsewhere. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even told the Prophet ﷺ afterwards. We're going to see that after later on after Hajj, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives tells the Prophet ﷺ to give the Arabs in the Arabian Peninsula 4 months to consider Islam, and those who don't consider Islam will be fought. That's in the Arabian Peninsula, but that doesn't apply anywhere else. Now, is it permissible to have People live in the Arabian Peninsula just because they're needed, like their profession, there's no one to do that. The expertise is needed, or you need ambassadors, you need diplomats, etc. Scholars are pretty much agreed that, yeah, that's permissible. These exceptions are okay. The Prophet ﷺ sends Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu anhu to the north of the Arabian Peninsula, where a famous tribe called Tay, Qabilatu Tay. From Qabila Tay is the famous generous man Hatim al-Ta'i. Hatim al-Ta'i lived before Islam. He died before hearing about or knowing about Islam, as far as I know. I think so, yeah. But he was an extremely, extremely generous man. Extremely generous man. Like, he would feed every day, he would feed hundreds of people every day. They said his fire would not go out. In the sense, the fire for cooking, it would not go out. So he would feed. He had this, what is it? What do you call it? Homeless kitchen, or what's the name for it? Soup kitchen. The soup kitchen. Like, he had that, but it wasn't soup. It was like meat, camels, sheep, goats, etc. That's what he would feed people. Anyone could come and eat. Anyone. So he was known for that. So this is why in the Arabs, any kind of, like any proverb or saying in Arabic that has to do with generosity is about Hatim al-Ta'i. Is about Hatim al-Ta'i. To the point that one day he ran out of sheep, camels, nothing, livestock, zero. He had nothing. And there were some travelers passing by, and they came to him and they said, you know, we were passing by, we ran out of food and finances and everything, and we know about Hatim al-Ta'i, so we came to you. And the only thing he had was his horse. He goes and slaughters his horse and cooks it and offers it to them. Offers it. Is it halal to eat horse, by the way? He was a non-Muslim. So is it halal to eat horse? Is it halal? Yes, it's halal to eat horse. You can eat horse, no problem. Actually, the Turks, the Seljuks, used to eat a lot of horses. Like, they ate lots of, and I think in a lot of, like Kazakhstan, I think today they still eat horses until today. And these are Muslims. So they eat horse meat. Is like, I think the national dish, is it Kazakhstan or Uzbekistan? I'm not sure. They actually eat, that's the national dish for them is made with horse meat. So it's halal to eat horses. But I mean, who's going to slaughter like a horse? Obviously, as far as I heard, I've never tasted it, but as far as I know, that you need to slaughter a horse when it's too young, because when it gets old, its meat gets really hard. You can't even chew on it. So it's better to eat younger horses, and younger horses are extremely expensive. Like, who wants to like pay $15,000 for a horse and eat it? Like, financially, it's extremely expensive. So the Prophet ﷺ sends Ali ibn Abi Talib to the lands of this Qabila, this tribe of Hatim al-Ta'i, Qabilatu Tay. He sends him because they had an idol, a famous idol they used to worship. Its name was Al-Fuls. The name of the statue was Al-Fuls. So Ali ibn Abi Talib with 150 men, they go there and they warn the people that we came to destroy this. No way, no worship of idols on the Arabian Peninsula. So now, who was there? The son of Hatim. The son of Hatim, his name was Adi ibn Hatim al-Ta'i. He was there, and they were somehow thinking of fighting, like resisting. But when they saw the Muslims, they decided to run away. He ran away. Adi bin Hatim al-Ta'i ran away. He was upon Christianity, but it wasn't the standard form of Christianity that was there. Okay, they mixed it with some Sabian traditions, which is the religion of those who didn't worship any god. Okay, it was a very common religion among the Arabs. As-Sabi'in, Sabi'a, Sabians. They worshipped God, only God, but but they had different rituals. They came up with rituals and so on and so forth. So his tribe mixed Christianity with some of the Sabian religion traditions, and they made up their own religion. So it was half Christian, half a mixture of other things. So when he saw the Ali ibn Abi Talib and the Muslims, he ran away and he left his family. So Ali ibn Abi Talib attacked them, whoever remained among them, and he took some of their family captives. He brought them to Medina. So among the captives was Safana, a woman called Safana. She's the sister of Adi. The sister of Adi ibn Hatim. She comes to the Prophet ﷺ and she says, Ya Rasulullah, I've been taken away from my tribe, from my place, and I'm an older woman. And some narrations indicate that she was his aunt, his paternal aunt, not his sister, the sister of his father. And I'm an older woman, why don't you let me go? The Prophet ﷺ set her free and said, he asked her asked about her family, who's in charge of you, who's your guardian? She said, Adi bin Hatim. The Prophet ﷺ says he's the one who ran away. So anyway, the Prophet ﷺ set her free, but and she goes back. The Prophet ﷺ makes sure that she goes back to her land safe, and then she goes and she finds her brother and she blames him. She blames him. Why did you run away and leave us? Why didn't you go to Muhammad? He's not an enemy. He's someone who really respects people, and that's the story. He set me free, and people came to him from different places of the Arabian Peninsula, and he treated them well. Why did you go? What he's calling to is the truth. And she embraced Islam. So Adi decides to come to the Prophet ﷺ in recognition. So he comes to the Prophet ﷺ, and this conversation takes place. So when he comes, he narrates the conversation. He says, when I came to the Prophet ﷺ, the Messenger ﷺ said, Ya Adi ibn Hatim, ma afarrak an yuqala la ilaha illallah. He says, Ya Adi ibn Hatim, why did you decide to run away rather than just say la ilaha illallah? Why did you run away? Say la ilaha illallah. Do you believe there's a God other than Allah? فهل من إله إلا الله ما أفرك أن يقال الله أكبر فهل من شيء أكبر من الله يا عدي بن حاتم أسلم تسلم. He says, is there anything greater than Allah? Why did you run away? And rather than just accept the truth. So the Prophet said, become a Muslim and you will be safe. So he says, Adi bin Hatim says, Inni ala deen. I am upon a religion. I have my religion. It's not like I'm searching for a religion. I already have a religion. The Prophet ﷺ said, فَقَالَ أَنَا أَعْلَمُ بِدِينِكَ مِنْكَ. The Prophet ﷺ said, I know your religion more than you know it. The Prophet ﷺ is saying to him, I know what your religion is about, more than you do. So he said, I exclaimed, أَنْتَ أَعْلَمُ بِدِينِ مِنِّي. You know more about my religion more? The Prophet ﷺ said, نَعَمْ أَلَسْتَ مِنَ الرَّكُوسِيَّةِ. The Prophet says, yes, I know it more than you do. Aren't you from this group called Al-Rakusiyya? That's the mixture between Christianity and the Sabianism. Aren't you from them? وَأَنْتَ تَأْكُلُ مِرْبَاعَ قَوْمِكَ. And when your people engage in fight, the spoils of war, you take a fourth of them, 25% of them. So he said, yes, indeed, that's the case. Adi bin Hatim says, yes, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فإن هذا لا يحل لك في دينك. He said, but your religion says you can't take that. So Adi bin Hatim says, فلم يعد أن قالها فتضعضعت لذلك. He said, as soon as the Prophet said that, I melted in my own clothes. I knew it was true. I didn't deserve to take, a quarter of the war booty when my tribe fought. But this was a trick that they played. So he said, I sort of melted out of shyness. I couldn't say anything. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, أَمَا إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا الَّذِي يَمْنَعُكَ مِنَ الْإِسْلَامِ. The Prophet ﷺ says, and let me tell you something else. I even know what is stopping you from accepting Islam. تقول إنما اتبعه ضعفة الناس ومن لا قوة له وقد رمتهم العرب ومن أمرتهم العرب أتعرف الحيرة. The Prophet ﷺ says, I know, you're looking around and you say only the weaker ones are accepting Islam and are following this Prophet Muhammad. Why? You might say, but the Arabs in the Arabian Peninsula have become Muslim. Because now, Adi ibn Hatim lived in the north of the Arabian Peninsula. And his exposure is not mainly with the Arabs. It's with who? The Persians, the Byzantines. So for him, the Arabs are nothing. Like, these are tribes. These are just tribes, the weakest nation in that area. So who followed Muhammad? The weaker ones. Not the kings, not the emperors of Persia and Byzantine. Right? So that was, Prophet is saying, that's what's holding you back from accepting Islam. The Prophet says to him, أَتَعْرِفُ الْحِيرَةِ? Do you know the Hira? Hira is where it's probably one of the capitals of the Persian Empire. And it's in Iraq. One of the main cities of the Persian Empire. It's in Iraq, and it's very close to where Al-Kufa is, by the way. It's actually, now Al-Hira, I don't think it's a city anymore. I think it was wiped out. It's not there anymore. But it's very close to Al-Kufa, which is obviously close now to what's known as Karbala. Yes, very close to what's known today as Karbala. So the Prophet says, do you know Al-Hira? So Adi bin Hatim says, لم أرها وقد سمعت بها. I've never seen it, but I heard about it. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فوالذي نفسي بيده ليتمن الله هذا الأمر حتى تخرج الضعينة من الحيرة حتى تطوف بالبيت في غير جوار أحد ولا يفتحن كنوز كسرى بن هرمز. The Prophet says, by Allah, Allah shall complete this affair of Islam and give it dominance until a woman, al-dha'ina is a woman, she travels from Al-Hira in Iraq, South Iraq, حتى تطوف بالبيت, until she comes and makes tawaf around the Kaaba. So she travels from Iraq to Mecca في غير جوار أحد, without needing the protection of anyone. Means Islam will bring about safety. People will be safe. A woman can travel without any danger, any concern. وَلَيُفْتَحَنَّ كُنُوزُ كِسْرَى بْنُ هُرْمُزْ. And you know the treasures of Kisra, the king or the emperor of Persia, we shall overtake them. We shall take over. So Adi bin Hatim says, Kisra ibn Hurmuz, like talking about Kisra, the emperor of Persia? Is he the one that you're talking about? قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم نعم كسرى بن هرمز. Yes, indeed. ولا يبذلن المال حتى لا يقبله أحد. And Islam shall be established until a point will come when money will be offered for free for people to take it and no one would take it. Why? Because people would be so rich, people have everything they need to the point that no one needs more money. So Adi ibn Hatim says later on, Adi ibn Hatim, now he becomes Muslim. So he says later on, after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, like years afterwards, he says, فهذه الضعينة تخرج من الحيرة فتطوف بالبيت في غير جوار. He says, here I am, living at a time, I live now at a time when a woman can actually leave Al-Hira, travel to Mecca and make tawaf without the need of protection of anyone. وَلَقَدْ كُنْتُ فِي مَنْ فَتَحَ كُنُوزَ كِسْرَى بْنُ هُرْمُزَ. And I was in the army that actually took over Persia and really captured the treasures and the gems of Kisra, of the Persian emperor. وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ لَتَكُونَنَّ الثَّالِثَ. And by Allah, the third one shall come true. It had not come true by his time. It shall come true. لأن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قد قالها, because the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم promised so. And actually that happened, the third one happened, anyone knows when? During the Khilafah of Umar bin Abdul Aziz. During the Khilafah of Umar bin Abdul Aziz, which is 100 Hijri, what you call social services so the zakah would be brought to Bayt Mal Muslimin, the treasury of the Muslims, and the public servants, those who work for the government, they would go and search for poor people. That's how it used to be done, by the way. It's not like you go and apply for it. Okay, no, it reaches you right to your doorstep. Your due, your monthly due. You receive it. Everyone had a salary. So, and they would search for people who deserve the zakah. And 1 year, those who work for the government to distribute the zakah, they would go and knock on every door in every city, in every town, in every village, everywhere in the Muslim world, and they would offer people the zakah, and people say, we have more than we need. And the zakat in that year, the zakah that went out from the treasury to be given to the Muslims, all came back without a penny less. Same money came back. So that happened. It's recorded it's documented in the history. And some scholars say that's going to happen again in the future. That's going to happen again in the future, and that's the time when Isa bin Maryam comes down with Al-Mahdi. When Al-Mahdi comes, appears, and Isa bin Maryam is sent down. So a delegation from tribe of Tayy, which is where Adi bin Hatim is from, they come and they all become, like a majority of them become Muslim. A few of the delegations also come to the Prophet ﷺ from Yemen. A lot of them become Muslim. I don't want to just talk about details, but the Prophet ﷺ sends Jarir bin Abdullah al-Bajali. He sends him to some area in Yemen, because Jarir bin Abdullah al-Bajali is from Yemen anyway. The Prophet ﷺ sends him to a famous idol that used to be worshipped called the Al-Khalasa. The Al-Khalasa. It was worshipped in Yemen. So the Prophet ﷺ sends him with 150 Muslims as an army in order to go and destroy it. And when he goes to destroy it, the people there, some of them are still non-Muslims, some of them are still like they became Muslim, but they haven't left like their shirk. So there's some remains basically. So when he was about to destroy it, like they basically warn him. They say like, aren't you afraid that something bad would happen to you? Like some kind of lightning would come and strike you, and so on and so forth. But anyway, he goes and destroys it, and alhamdulillah, that basically marks the end of paganism in a lot of areas of the Arabian Peninsula. And that's good. Look at how the Prophet ﷺ would actually appoint as an emir and send people like this from the people themselves. From the people themselves, sending them a message: we're not here to take over. All what we want is remove all the obstacles that lie between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not about Quraysh taking over. It's not about Al-Ansar taking over. It's not about any of that. Okay, your leaders will be from among you, because that's more. It makes it more likely for the people to obey and feel that, like, it's not a personal attack on us. And that's really profound. And I think Muslims, generally speaking, Muslim communities in the West, I don't think that they have observed this quite well. And I think revets have not been given a fair chance, and they've not been offered the preparation that they need actually to sort of uphold Islam. And it's much more likely for let's say the non-Muslim Canadians to accept, or Americans, or even Europeans, or South Americans, when Islam comes to them through people who are from their own race, speak their own language, with their own cultural background. They have a lot in common with them, and they know how to speak with them. So that would actually take away a lot of the human prejudice and the human concern that you are here to take over. Because really, there's no plans to take over. The plan is to open people's heart to the guidance of Allah. Offer them their right, their birthright to know the truth and follow it. That's really, the point is not who leads, or who's in charge. So these human dynamics, the Prophet ﷺ actually observed them very well, and he knew how to, utilize them. In the year, again, in the middle of year 9 after Hijrah, Al-Najashi dies. And the Najashi dies. I mean, Jibreel tells the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ tells the companions, "Istaghfiru li akhikum," seek forgiveness for your brother. And the Prophet ﷺ prays actually salat. The Prophet ﷺ says, "Mata al-yawma rajulun salih." Today a righteous man passed away. "Qumu fasallu ala akhikum ashama." You know, come on, go. Let's go and pray, make janazah on your brother Ashama, which is the proper name of Al-Najashi. And that supports actually that Al-Najashi, he was a Muslim, and his people didn't know about that. Because we mentioned last week, if you guys remember, some narration from I think Abdullah bin Amr ibn al-As, that he said that actually Al-Najashi became Muslim and his people knew about it. But again, this is a historical narration. That one was a historical narration. And as we said, like, we don't guarantee whether it's right or wrong. So what seems to be stronger opinion, and I would say that's pretty much closer to what really happened, was that Najashi did not publicize his Islam. His people didn't know about it. He kept it to himself. And it seemed that he realized that the repercussions, consequences would be really bad. So he kept it to himself. And the scholars, by the way, they use the example of a Najashi and how he was a Muslim ruling a Christian nation with their religion, with their book. Why? Because it was a necessity for him. There was no way he could get himself out of that without jeopardizing his life. Or maybe he thought he could actually bring about some good and minimize some evil. So the scholars use that example, is that we shouldn't take some of the religious texts mathematically. Okay, that anyone in a situation where they can't really practice their Islam properly and so on and so forth, and thus, they make some compromises and they use some concessions, that automatically we start making judgments about them and so on and so forth. And that shows that application of Islam is very organic, is very dynamic. That doesn't mean compromising on Islam, but it means you also have to appreciate, the situation. You can't just apply, whatever you have in your head without understanding the situation. You can't. That's just it's insanity. Literally, it's insanity. Okay. So more delegations come to the Prophet ﷺ. So I'm not going to go into details because, one of the from Banu Sa'd, when one delegation comes from Banu Sa'd, or representative comes from them, and Banu Sa'd are from Hawazin, from Al-Ta'if, and Banu Sa'd are the ones where Halima Sa'diyya comes from. She's Sa'diyya, Banu Sa'd. She's Banu Sa'd. So they sent a representative. His name is Dimam ibn Tha'laba. He comes to Medina, and he comes to the masjid. Then he sees a group of Muslims. He says, "Ayyukum Muhammad?" Who is Muhammad among you? The Prophet ﷺ was with his companions, and the companion said, that's Muhammad, that's where the Prophet ﷺ. So he goes to him and he says, "Ibn Abdul Muttalib," he says, "You are the son of Abdul Muttalib, you are Muhammad." قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قد أجبتك. Yes, I'm here for you. How can I help you? That's what it means. So the Imam says, "Inni sa'iluka famushaddidun alayka al-mas'ala." I'm going to ask you, but I will be harsh. I'll be very straightforward. And I might come across as rude. Again, that's what he means. فَلَا تَجِدْ عَلَيَّ فِي نَفْسِكَ. So do not take it personally. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم سل عما بدا لك. The Prophet says, ask whatever you want. فقال يا محمد أتانا رسولك فزعم أنك تزعم أن الله أرسلك. He says, your messenger came to us and he claims that Allah sent you as a messenger. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم صدق. The Prophet said, yes, he told you the truth. قال ضمام فمن خلق السماء. Dimam says, who created the heavens, the skies? فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الله. He said, Allah. قال فمن خلق الأرض. Dimam said, who created the land, the earth? قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الله. Allah created it. قال فمن نصب هذه الجبال. Who erected these mountains? The Prophet ﷺ says, Allah. قال أنشدك بالذي خلق السماء. He says, I ask you by the one who created the heavens. وخلق الأرض, and created the earth. ونصب هذه الجبال, and erected the mountains. الله أرسلك. Is it Allah who sent you? I'm asking you, tell me the truth. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم نعم. Yes. قال وزعم رسولك أن علينا 5 صلوات في يومنا وليلتنا. Your messenger claimed that we have to pray 5 times a day, every 24 hours. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم صدق. Yes, he told you the truth. قال أنشدك بالذي أرسلك. الله أمرك بهذا. He said, I ask you by Allah. Is it Allah who told you that? Who commanded you to tell us that? Prophet ﷺ said, نعم, yes. قال وزعم رسولك أن علينا صوم شهر في سنتنا. Your messenger also claimed that we have to fast 1 month every year. فقال رسول الله صدق. Prophet said, he told you the truth. قال أنشدك بالذي أرسلك. الله أمرك بهذا. He said, I ask you by the one who sent you. Is it Allah who commanded you with this? The Prophet said, yes, indeed. قال وزعم رسولك أن علينا زكاة في أموالنا. فقال رسول الله صدق. And your messenger said, claimed that we have to give zakah on our money. Prophet said, true. So he says, أنشدك بالذي أرسلك. الله أمرك بهذا. Ask you by the one who sent you. Is it Allah who commanded you with this? The Prophet said, yes. قال وزعم رسولك أن علينا حج البيت من استطاع إليه سبيلا. You know where this is going now. He says, the Prophet says, صدق. This is, your messenger claims that we have to make hajj to the house of Allah. The Prophet said, yes. He says, أنشدك بالذي أرسلك. الله أمرك بهذا. I ask you by the one who sent you. Is it Allah who commanded you with this? The Prophet said, yes. So when it was done, he was done with the conversation. What did he say? He says, آمنت بما جئت به. I have believed in what you came with. وأنا رسول من ورائي من قومي. And I'm a representative, and I'm a messenger, a representative from the people, from my people behind me. وأنا ضمام بن ثعلبة أخو بني بكر بن سعد أخو بني سعد بن بكر. And I am Dimam ibn Tha'laba. My name is Dimam. Now he introduces himself. I am Dimam bin Tha'laba from the tribe of Banu Sa'd, from Banu Bakr, Banu Sa'd, Sa'diyin. Another narration completes the story. When that conversation was over, the Imam says to the Prophet ﷺ, says, سأؤدي هذه الفرائض وأجتنب ما نهيتني عنه ثم لا أزيد ولا أنقص. He says to the Prophet ﷺ, I will do everything you commanded with, and I will avoid all the prohibitions, but I will not increase anything, and I'll do just that, nothing more, nothing less. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لئن صدق ليدخلن الجنة. Prophet said, if he remains true to that, he will enter paradise. He will enter paradise. So this is a proof actually some scholars use to say the only obligations upon us are the ones that are mentioned here. So there's a debate among the scholars, is Salatul Witr wajib or not? Is it a fard, like an obligation or not? So the scholars who hold the view that Salatul Witr is not wajib, is not an obligation, they say this is the hadith. This man said to the Prophet, I'm just going to pray the 5 daily prayers. Not going to do more, not going to do less. The Prophet says if he remains truthful to that, he will enter paradise. So that shows there's no obligations other than these. Okay, now there are situational obligations with interactions, etc., but with regards to worship. Okay, so the Imam goes back to his people, and he goes to the idol they used to worship, and he wants to destroy it. So some of his people say, like, maybe a plague will take you over. You'll be destroyed with something. These are like the idols. These are the gods, right? He said, do you guys still believe in this? And he destroys it. And then his whole people enter into Islam. Okay, we're going to stop here. We'll stop here. There is an incident that happened between the Prophet ﷺ and his wives. Okay, some kind of an issue happens between the Prophet ﷺ and his wives. And yeah, then inshallah next week we'll talk about that. Then we will jump right into Ghazwat Tabuk, the Battle of Tabuk, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. So we can take a couple of questions. No questions? Okay, so we'll see you next week inshallah. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.